Okay, hang on. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yep.
Okay, good. I don't need to be on the audio in the space, right? I can just be here on Zoom.
Yeah, you just be here on Zoom and like muted on on the Twitter space. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. How you doing, Far? Nice to see you.
How are you?
Yeah, good.
So
All
how do
right.
you guys feel? Like next week is NYC, right? It's what happening on 12th? How do you guys feel like
I gotta
you're gonna
drink
meet
some.
for the first time?
Yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be good meeting all the folks. This year is gonna be special, right? Because what happened with Ordinals. So there is a lot of people that I wanna meet in person because we have been the last I don't know how long, like in the last month or two, I lost the the sense of time, but we have been met a lot of people online. So I think we're gonna meet them in real life. So this is pretty exciting. It's gonna be very exciting next week.
Yeah, I agree that for one thing, you only have the people who really care about NFTs here now, I think. So I think that's one thing that's good. That a lot of the tourists are gone and you have the builders. And so I think that's
Yeah.
one reason I'm excited about next week. We're gonna actually have a cigar afternoon, 2 p.m. on Thursday, if anyone wants to join us. I don't know if you smoke cigars, Far, but anyone that wants to join us for cigars on Thursday afternoon, let me know. We have a little group going. We're gonna have
I'll join. I like it. I like cigars. I'll join.
yeah, so that's gonna be a lot of fun.
I saw the place you chose. Very nice place, John, in the chat. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love to organize stuff.
Yeah, nice venue. Nice venue.
Yeah,
Choice.
awesome.
Yeah, super.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us, John.
Yeah, nice to be here. Thanks a lot
Can
for having me
you
on.
tell the audience because this is not just streaming to Twitter, like this is going to YouTube, LinkedIn, etc. So
Sure.
maybe you can catch people to speed, do like a quick intro of who you are and what you're doing, and then we could jump in.
Sure. Yeah, and Far gets it for sure. He got it faster than almost anybody that we've met. So it'll be good to have his comments. Yeah, well, so I'm John Ennis. I'm the CEO of NeoSwap. I've got a PhD in math. I did my postdoc in computational neuroscience. Then I went into market research. I previously founded Agora, which is a successful enterprise AI services business. And then I started NeoSwap. And NeoSwap is really about the problem of finding, NeoSwap is really about the fact that Web3 and AI make a new type of commerce possible. We have a lot of talking about decentralizing money, that Bitcoin, the promise of Bitcoin decentralizes money. But I would say that's not going far enough. We have to actually decentralize commerce. And we need it to be that if you were to look at like a map of economic transactions, you would see everything is always passing through liquidity. And that's a bottleneck. That's a choke point, actually, which is very relevant with Operation Choke Point 2.0 happening right now. That when you always have to go through liquidity, there's a chance for capture. And it's much better if you're going to really realize the vision of Bitcoin to decentralize commerce altogether. And instead of everything having to always be sold before you have money to buy new things, what we really want is to have these kind of simultaneous trades where you have potentially many actors, you have lots of items, you've got maybe a little bit of currency, but not nearly as much as you would need in the old way. And you can get commerce to happen in low liquidity environments. I think in Ordinals, it's going to be very relevant. I think we're going to have liquidity issues, especially at the beginning. We were talking about DeFi getting ramped up. I think there's going to be liquidity problems. And in order to get commerce to happen, we need to leverage some of these new tools. So I think that's really the exciting thing. I would hope that people participating in this hackathon kind of start to work on this problem. Because I feel like there's very few people, there are few other companies in the Web3 space that are doing there's a company, Anoma Network, they have a blockchain, which is kind of a barter type blockchain, okay? And that's sort of movement in the direction of what we're doing. But we want to go kind of all the way, where we have you've got both non-fungible and fungible assets all moving around at the same time. Get into the extent possible. But I really think that's an important problem, that there's a whole new form of commerce that's possible. And I would love to see other people working on this. On the Bitcoin side, there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of the mechanisms of having this. Like without smart contracts, it's much harder to do this. And so there's some really interesting problems that have to be solved. So that would be the hope for my participation here, is getting people excited about this new type of commerce.
Yeah, no, that's super. I think in general, the intersection between AI and Web3 and Bitcoin is just going to be I mean, I can't even imagine what's going to come out of that, but that definitely is a future. That definitely is a future. But before we jump into that, I'm really curious how the two of you met. How did you guys meet, Far and John?
You want to know that far?
Well, one Yeah, like we have a friend in common, I guess. Like it's an employee
Yeah.
NeoSwap. Well, the what interests me about NeoSwap is like it's really solving a problem that we have like for first of all, you know, like you have many people that they either hold. There's a few things. Let's put it this way. Like first of all, for an artist, you have this problem of launching a project, and you kind of like it. You always like a struggle with how you do this, like how you price your work, how you actually do the auction. That's one of the problems that NeoSwap is solving. The other problem is like okay, I have like a bunch of NFTs and I want to get another one, and you know I may not have any liquidity, or I might have a liquidity, but you know I want to trade. I don't want to trade what I have. So I think this is what I really like about NeoSwap, because it was offering this system like where you could get a new NFT using the your all something that you have already as a trading card, for instance, right? So it seems like a very technically speaking, it's very complex, but the fundamental is very simple, right? Like this is what we want to do. So that's how we, you know, through Kiran, I got to know NeoSwap. So we started to talk to John about it, and it's fascinating. All the, you know, I don't know how long it's been, like maybe a year or less than a year.
Coming up
Yeah,
on a
because
year. Yeah.
you have a
Yeah.
year already. The company's 1 year old. So
Mhm.
yeah, so I really like NeoSwap. I think they are doing cutting edge innovation, and I think they're gonna have like a big role in the NFTs in general.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
I'm
Very
gonna get my phone and share a few tweets about NeoSwap in the space, if that's okay. So let me
Yeah,
just, I'll step
absolutely,
back here.
absolutely. So while you're
Okay.
setting that up, maybe Far, you could give some final inspirational words or encouraging words to all the builders joining this hackathon, or Bitcoin Olympics hackathon.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. This is great. I really like to try to inspire people to build something. That's something like I like a lot. So yeah, I think as I said before, it's a blank canvas. There's a lot of things to do, especially in the let's say in the cultural side of it. Like provided this user experience, there's many things that people can do. So I'm very excited about it. You know, people don't hesitate to reach out to me. You know, especially if you are into the topics that I mentioned before, like a kind of like a paving the way for artists to use to inscribe and to leverage on the blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain. So that's what I would say. I think there is a lot to do. Like just go for it. Nothing is done. I mean, or very little is done. So I could say that there is chances that if people create something that is meaningful, like there is chances that it can be adopted as a standard too, right? Like that's the other thing. So it's yeah, it's a great moment.
Absolutely. Thank you for the words of inspiration and encouragement, and thank you for supporting the Bitcoin Olympics hackathon. And we'll try to push some people into this direction, right? And remember, give me that, you know, 1 or 2 lines on that your wish
I will.
list idea, and I'm going to make sure it gets in front of people. All right, let's see what happens in a week and a half. Hopefully, it has a
Perfect.
good.
Well,
All right, thanks
perfect.
again.
Well, good luck for everyone.
Thank you. And again, school.taprootwizards.com. And
Exactly.
how do we like, how do people learn about Fine?
Find.digital.
Fine.digital. All right. So those
Yeah,
are 2
exactly.
projects Far is working on. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your support. And thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Looking forward to next time.
Nice to see you, Mark.
Bye-bye.
Nice to see you.
Adios. All right.
That guy's
John.
awesome. That's fun. Thanks for having him. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and then is this you guys are both so busy, and it just happened that you guys were right next to each other on time spots. So you guys are like
so
the energy in the universe is bringing people together, like
Yeah. It's true. I believe that's true. I think when you're meant to do something, the universe helps you. So,
Oh, yeah,
and
for sure. For sure.
it tests you too. Like the
Yep.
SEC stuff is testing everybody, but that's part of the process. So, yeah.
It's like a very violent, but also very how do you say nourishing ocean. It could be both. It could be both.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Very
Okay, cool.
tumultuous. Excellent. So do you want to share screen, or what's did I understand you correctly? You wanted to share something?
Oh yeah, I shared it with the Twitter space. I could pull it up in here too. So I can do that. Yeah. So let
Yeah,
me.
it's up to you. I mean, I remember you had something cool.
Yeah, well, I just want people to understand what we're talking about when it comes to multi-way trading. So I put a couple of tweets into the space, and I'll show them here on my screen as well. The first one goes through kind of what is NeoSwap, and what does it mean to do multi-way trading. So because we're talking about wish list. I think the wish list for me would be tools to support multi-way trading on Bitcoin. Okay, that we can do it on stacks with smart contracts. It looks like, and we have to see about counterparty, because I have not personally, and I don't think Kuba has done anything with counterparty. I think it's something we have to look into. Then the question is, to what extent on Bitcoin L1 can we conduct a multi-way trade using, say, PSBTs and DLC? Those would be the two types of tools. So let me show you what this looks like, and then we will talk about like what goes into making it happen. So let me know if you can see my screen. Am I sharing the main screen?
Yeah, I can see Twitter.
Yeah. Okay. So this is one of the two tweets that I shared, was this thread on. This is back when stacks was kind of exploding to $1, and Trevor had to shave his beard. There's a lot of interest in stacks, and there still is, obviously. So this is a multi-way trade. So on the second tweet in that tweet storm, you see a simultaneous trade among something like 50, maybe 12 to 15 people. Okay. And what's special about this is that there's really no way, if you had 12 people that wanted to do a trade together, right now, what it would look like, ideally, they would just get into a bigger group. They would try to sell their items on the market. Once they had money, then they buy each other's items. And it actually is extremely inefficient. But it's kind of ironic, because in many cases, centralization leads to efficiency. But actually, when it comes to commerce, this is a way that centralization leads to inefficiency. But money itself is a type of centralization. The idea that you have to pass through liquidity. This is why I say Bitcoin by itself is not enough to accomplish the goals. When you think about, we don't want to get too political on this call, but I think everyone listening to this probably agrees that starting with the creation of the Fed, and certainly with breaking with the gold standard in 1970s, that a small group of people took control of the money supply, and they have used it to push their own personal, and they haven't necessarily cared very much about what everyone else thinks. And it's been gradually, a lot of the tension in the world, in my opinion, is due to that control of the financial system, really starting with the centralized control of the monetary supply. Okay. Now, Bitcoin is an attempt to get control back out to the people. I think it's a very noble and good attempt. But I would say that by itself, it's insufficient, that we really have to go further. And we have to look to see to what extent we can decentralize commerce itself. And that's the idea of this chart, is this is now distributed commerce, where we're not passing things through a centralized step of creating liquidity, that we're saying we don't actually need that. If you can predict with some sort of accuracy how much people want different items, you can then run different optimization techniques to figure out how should we rearrange ownership so to make everyone better off. I mean, that's the heart of economic activity, is people working together. Ideally, assuming it's not corrupt economic activity, ideally it's people working together to perform services for each other, or to share goods, commodities, whatever it might be, with each other for mutual benefit. It's kind of the heart of capitalism, right? It's this cooperation. It's kind of selfishly motivated cooperation, and it ends up producing really a lot of good. So that's the idea of multi-way trade. Now, a special case, the multi-way trade. This is an Ordinals smart auction, where this was actually Brian, who a lot of you all probably know, Brian Laughlin. It was the design lead at NeoSwap, and so he helped us a lot. A lot of the nice things you see on the front end are thanks to Brian's work. He's of course now gone full time with Ordinal Spot, but we did here an Ordinal smart auction with him. This is a special case. We have a bunch of items you want to sell to a crowd. Turns out that most traditional auction techniques for selling a group of items into a crowd are inefficient. And if you can solve all at once to figure out what's the best way to sell the items to the crowd, you can achieve a bunch of goals at once. Everyone can stay under their budget. Everyone can get items for prices they're willing to pay. and the artist or the seller can make as much money as possible. Okay, so there's all this efficiency that can come from the combination of either knowing or predicting how much people want items, and then a kind of intelligent solving to figure out how to rearrange the ownership. Okay, and of course, permissionless reassignment of ownership is exactly what a blockchain does. That's what it supports. So it's a very nice matchup here between these kind of tools for predicting good trades and the executing of those trades on a blockchain without anybody's permission, without any kind of centralized permission. So those are kind of two of the pictures I wanted to show. I did have actually a smart auction for FAR that I shared to the Twitter space, but you guys can just look at that on the Twitter space. We did a War Games smart auction for him, actually.
Wow,
Okay.
that is super awesome. Thanks for doing this project, John. You're really pioneering not just in Bitcoin, but also you're because you have a background in artificial intelligence, which is you know why I put you up in this lineup is because I'm sure a lot of people in the audience, like everyone's heard about OpenAI and then it becoming Chat GPT, et cetera, and AI is not really new to anyone, but the application of it is and the conversions of it with Web3 and with Bitcoin, I think this is largely untapped, right? Can you sort of speak about what you think AI is going to do for Bitcoin and Web3 in general?
Mhm. Well, first off, there's all different types of AI, right? And when people talk about AI, there's not just one flavor of it. And I do think the large language models are models we should all just be using all the time, as much as possible. But I would assume that everybody on this call is using large language models. I mean, I use ChatGPT. I mean, ChatGPT is basically another employee at NeoSwap. We all use it all the time. Bing, of course, we use that. I mean, people should just be using these tools. And then, of course, people are building all sorts of generative tools for art, for video. That's going to unlock all sorts of new experiences. What I would say is that some of the other, you might think more traditional machine learning, not large language models, but the sort of models that are used in market research, where you're going to predict how much people appreciate different products. Then in market research, what happens is you've got people and then you've got products, and you want to predict how much people are going to appreciate different products. That problem is very relevant to us economically because we've got people and then we know things about the people. With the blockchain, you actually know quite a lot about people because of on-chain signals. Okay, and you've got wallet information. You actually have a lot. This is why I think AI. Some people say AI and what blockchain are not compatible because they think AI is centralized, blockchain is decentralized. Very difficult to bring those two worlds together. I completely disagree. I would say that blockchain is a great source of information. Like AI needs data for training, right? Blockchain has got a tremendously rich source of information, behavioral data from all these people. So a lot about people who've been using the blockchain. Potentially depends on the details here, but on Bitcoin, or on Stacks, you have all sorts of information about the users. Okay, because you have the wallet information, you have everything that's observable on chain. You have the history of the wallet, not just its current state. So a lot about the people, and then a lot about the items. Okay, the items can be say the NFTs or the ordinals. This is one problem that has to be solved. There needs to be better, and people tools. There needs to be better data available about ordinals. That right now, I think the data for ordinals are pretty well impoverished, and so it's not that great for training now. Because even if, like Leonidas was on here earlier, he has a very nice tool where they're using machine learning too. From what I understand, they've got different images, and they want to compute a similarity metric for how similar or different two images are. So they're using some sort of machine learning algorithm. I would say that that's good, but it's still pretty rough. You're gonna have to put other signals in there, like, and they probably are doing this too. Rarity, other detail. If you're on a smart contract chain, typically you have very rich metadata for the NFTs. Like suppose you're on Stacks, you're on Solana, you're on Ethereum. There's a lot of information in the contract that you can use to help train your AI. But ideally, you've got people, and things about people. You have items, the NFTs for us, maybe different currencies, things about those items, and then you're going to bring that together and train a model that's going to predict at this moment in time how much the people value those items. So those types of that would be the type of AI that we're working with a lot. You can call those, could be called regression model. I mean, this is kind of supervised machine learning. So it's not as fancy as large language models, but it's incredibly useful. Because if you can predict how much people value things, then you can start to predict trades. Now, eventually we will get to what we want to do is have enough trading data we can start to predict successful trades. Exactly, but we're not there yet. There just isn't enough information at this point. And at that point, it'd be more like a generative model. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Albert.
So,
go ahead.
no, that's very insightful. So that's sort of like, there's a lot of questions now, but so let's say one day AI is fully integrated with our life and with the blockchain, with Bitcoin, with Web3. Now, what would that combination sort of look like?
Yeah.
What would that combination look like to you?
Okay. Let me describe to you what I think the world should be. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
whether or not, I mean, there's a lot of powerful forces that are working against some of these things because they don't have humanity's best interest in mind. So there's assuming that everything that should happen happens. Here's my description. Okay. Everything valuable has its ownership reported on chain. I think that if the case that we really were moving into the way things should be, I would say that's the way things should be. It should be the case that there's not any confusion about who owns things. And if two individuals want to transact, they should be able to do so freely without the permission of anybody else. They should, like, if I own a car and I want to sell it to you, I should just be able to sell it to you. Shouldn't have to go through all these hoops. And if you're on some naughty list because you posted the wrong thing on social media, now I can't sell it to you. We don't want that. Okay. So it should just be free to transact. So assuming that's the world we're in, what will happen is NFTs will start to become digital certificates of ownership for almost anything valuable or interesting. And it'll be, CDOs, it'll be real estate. The president of my first company lives in La Palma. She's been trying to buy a house for more than a year. And her and the owner of the house have already worked out the deal. But because some deed that was written in 1860 is incorrect, they're like, the ownership records are totally messed up on La Palma. So the sale can't go through because this document from the 1800s is incorrect. That'll all get straightened out. Everything will be on chain. Mortgages will be on chain. You'll have insurance policies on chain. You'll have CDOs on chain. You'll have everything of any kind of interest. Its ownership will be recorded on chain. Okay. Then what will happen is you'll have different modules, AI modules, predicting how much the parties who are interested in those items value those items. And it will be proposing trades. And the thing is, when you look at that multi-way trading, many, many more trades become possible. Like you might be interested in, just think about Airbnb, right? You might be interested in a weekend in, Hawaii next weekend, but you don't and you're going to be there. Like we know things about you that can predict that you could actually do it, right? But you don't have enough money for it. Well, maybe I could come to you and say, all right, Albert, well, can you make your apartment available on these dates for other people to stay there, and you get to stay in Hawaii? Okay, that sounds great. You're going to start to have these proposals happening all the time, where things, I'm trying to remember who it was brought up earlier. I think it was Post brought up Internet of Things. I was talking about the security side of Internet of Things. I actually think the sensor side of Internet of Things is also going to start to provide all sorts of signals to real world signals to AI about how often items are being used. This will start in supply chain, but eventually will come out to the real world. And what will happen is there'll be sensors on the item. You can put sensors on all the valuable items in your house. And if you haven't moved something in 6 months, then maybe the AI system starts to volunteer it for trades. Like you have in 6 months, maybe you want to trade.
I would love that feature.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is
you have all this, that, or you have to go to Burning Man to burn all that stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have all this. Here's the thing: it's a lot like you just have all this stuck economic value in your house. Is probably, it could be $1 million worth of stuff if you could just give it to the right people. All right, but it's just stuck in your house, and same in my house. All this stuff is stuck, and what we want,
and then with the robots, if you link that up with the IoT, then the AI decides for you what you have to prune, right? Or reallocate to somebody else.
Yes.
And it just
drones
becomes
can come get
automated,
it.
right? It
Yeah,
becomes automated.
that's
So
right.
you never have a cluttered house. That's awesome.
That's right. It's much more sustainable. That will change spending habits. People will start to buy durable goods because So that's
everything becomes fluid now. It becomes fluid. I can buy this, and like you said, if it's idle for X amount of time, all right, like it goes on the market, and it finds out who's on the market looking for it, and it does that automatic match. Yeah, no, that's really exciting.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the longer term vision. But I think right now, even just the NFT world with liquidity in the Ordinals world, there is going to be. Sorry, go ahead, Robert.
No, okay. So that was a great vision to share with everyone. Now, like let's backtrack to today too. Let's it's a Bitcoin Olympics hackathon, and there are going to be some projects that are going to be submitted a week and a half from now, and maybe you can inspire some people, and you can influence what some of those those products are going to be in the context of, all right, before the next Bitcoin halving, which is in about a year from now. And,
Yeah.
and within the context of AI and what you're doing, what else, like if you had more time, what are those other things that you would build to make
Yes.
the ecosystem that you're building more robust and
Yeah.
come closer to that future, that vision you were talking about?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the things we are building and that we would love to see somebody else build so we didn't have to build them. Because we intend to open source all of our anything that's blockchain related, we intend to open source it. Like our business, we're an AI business. We have enough that's to worry from a business standpoint of protecting the kind of blockchain technology. And also I just think these ideas world, that like it would be very sad if I died and these ideas just died with me. So I'd much rather that they're out there in the world and people are talking about them and working on them, because I think there's a huge amount of inefficiency in the global economy, and it would be much better that these problems get solved. I would, of course, I want our business to be successful and we solve them or whatever, but like I want them to be solved more than anything. So here are the problems that I think are interesting. On Bitcoin L1, figure out how to conduct even just a three-way trade. Okay, where it's like like suppose Albert, it's you, me, and Trevor, and we each have an ordinal, and we want to do a three-way trade. Get that to happen trustlessly. Okay, that's step one. Next, can we incorporate some Bitcoin, where I send you an ordinal and some Bitcoin, Albert, and Trevor sends, and maybe Trevor sends me an ordinal and sends you some Bitcoin. Can you have it be a combination of ordinals and Bitcoin, and it's happening in a trustless manner? Okay, I think that's going to be possible now. You can use escrow if you have to. If you use escrow, try to do it in a way that avoids taking custody. And from a legal perspective, what custody means is that you could move those items out of escrow. If there's some sort of smart contract where the items go to escrow, but you don't have a freedom to move them, then you're not going to be technically taking custody, from what I understand. So I'm not a lawyer, but that's just my understanding, that if you go to escrow, try to have it be without taking custody. That's going to be better. Okay. If you can do it directly, that's great. And then the kind of holy grail of this would be arbitrary number of items, arbitrary number of people, arbitrary the ownership of all that stuff. So you get a complex multi-way trade, get it to happen trustlessly on Bitcoin. That would be great. That would be a great contribution to humanity, because now you would have unlocked not just kind of peer-to-peer commerce, like, two-person commerce in a whole community. Get that to happen on Bitcoin L1. That would be great. And we're working on that, and we'll have our solution. If other people have one, great.
Let me just, that almost sounds like the backbone or the engine of that future, that vision that you had of the world.
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
right. That's the infrastructure that it has to run on. Yeah, that's right. And we have it on stacks. We have smart contract chains. We can do it without really. Yeah. So to do it on Bitcoin L1, a great achievement for somebody. We will figure it out, but if you can figure it out first, we'd be happy to use your tool, and we can talk about as we grow, hiring you, whatever. Yeah.
So
Okay.
and I'm very thrilled to say that John is also being very generous at this time and offering 2 time slots to winners.
Oh yeah, happy to help you. Definitely.
Yeah. So on April 19th, when we announce the winners, after that, there's gonna be 2 winners that get to meet John and get mentorship and coaching and take your project beyond just a hackathon project. All right. So that's gonna be very exciting.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna reach out to you just like I'm doing with Far and all the other speakers. Can you summarize in your words
definitely.
that idea? And then we're gonna make sure that it gets seen in our Discord. And let's see if we can get some people to pick that up, because that is super exciting.
Yeah. I've got another request for people.
Okay, good. Yeah. Keep them coming.
All right.
We have like 7 minutes left. So
Okay.
we'll do it.
Well, here's another thing. We have a solution that's kind of trust minimized for selling ordinals for smart contract currency. All right. And that's the way that works. It has an Oracle mechanism where you suppose Albert, you want to send me an ordinal for some ETH. Then what we have is a mechanism where you can enter the inscription ID, you can pick the chain, you set your price, okay, and then you create an invoice. You send the invoice to me, I click the invoice button, I get taken to a page where I put in my Taproot address, contract gets made, I sign it, my money goes to escrow, you get a notification that the money's in escrow, so send the ordinal to this address, you send it, and then it works. But if someone could have a cleaner, trustless way to do that, it would be great. And in general, I think integrations between Bitcoin and other smart contract chains. I mean, really what would be great is to have multi-way trading where across multiple chains, maybe you have Bitcoin, you have Ordinals and Ethereum NFTs together in the same transaction. Can we get some sort of trustless exchange there? That would be another request. Yeah.
Super. That's also another awesome one. And I can see these are all the beginnings of massive projects that could go way beyond just a hackathon. So the hackathon is a great place to find some people, build it together. Don't do it by yourself. It's a lot more fun when you have a group of people together. Yeah, John.
Totally, I would agree. Yeah, Trevor, I went through the Stack Accelerator with Trevor as well. And he really impressed upon me that importance of having other people on your team. Because at the beginning, I was going to be the only founder of what was NeoSwap. And he really encouraged me to have co-founders. And that's incredibly important. I think it's super hard. Startup life is super hard. And when you've got people with you on that journey, it's so much better. Like, it's tempting to think, oh, I can just do it myself. Well, good luck. It's going to be really, really hard if you try to do it by yourself. A lot better to have a co-founder. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for underscoring that. Actually, that to our audience out there, that's actually one of our criteria. You cannot submit with a one-person team. It's a 2 to 5 people team. We do suggest that, and we encourage you to make a diversified team. And you heard it from John. These are really, really awesome ideas. Maybe you do something very similar, or maybe you get some inspiration and do a variation of it. It's all good. Let's see what you guys could put together, right? Let's see what you guys can put together.
Another
Yeah.
one, if you want.
All right,
Okay, another one is
one more.
Okay, value prediction models, where because a thing is, when you have multi-way trading, you see in Web 2, you can't go, if you go to Amazon or Netflix, you're going to have things that are recommended for you, and there's a recommendation engine behind the scenes. But what you can't get in Web 2 is individualized prices. If you went to Amazon and they tried to charge you more to watch a movie than they charge Trevor, you'd find out about it. It would seem really unfair. Okay. But when you've got Web3 and you have multi-way trading, individualized pricing becomes a good thing. Because if it's the case, you own something and you don't value it, and I value it a lot. Okay. Maybe I don't value something and Trevor does value it. And Trevor owns something he doesn't value. You do value it. A three-way trade creates value for all of us. Okay. So if someone wants to instead look at analyzing blockchain data to predict individualized prices or individualized utility, that's also interesting to us. Yeah, I mean, obviously we are working on that too, and that's one of the other components of what we do. But that was someone, yeah. So someone's into yeah. So go ahead.
No, I just want to double click on that 3-way. So I mean, just to make sure everyone understands like how awesome that is. It's like, if 2 people are trading something and we don't necessarily, like, one person wants it, the other person doesn't, then the trade doesn't go through, right? But if you have a third person, then you have a solution, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, it's like that's the beauty. And then 3 and then 4 and 5, that's like insane, like the possibilities. And then then perhaps we may have efficient allocation of economic resources.
Yes, that's right. And it's distributed, decentralized. Another thing is putting AI stuff on chain. That's another. I mean, I think the model weights will end up as ordinals because people are trying to free the models from censorship. That's going to happen too. So, yeah.
Interesting.
All right.
So we got about 2 minutes left here, John. If I understand correctly, you're coming back on next week, right, to help people get started. Yes.
Yeah.
And this is, again, guys, this is going to be another amazing session because John is also going to bring in the AI component, right? So this is definitely pioneering this on the Bitcoin frontier. Right. So,
Albert, can I give one word to the people who are going to start companies here? That's something I think everybody needs.
Please, like we would love to hear some inspirational, encouraging words from you.
Well, I don't know. This is useful information. I don't know if it's inspirational, but it's true. Starting a company is super hard, and you have to know that because at some point it's going to be like depressingly hard, and you're going to wonder, is something wrong with me? Is the system unfair? Whatever. The answer is no. It's just hard. It's hard for everybody. Keep going. That's what I would say. That I really think that message isn't. Sometimes there's a lot of like, oh, you can do it, whatever. But then when it gets to be hard, people wonder, well, really, can I do it? Why is it so hard for me? But actually, it's hard for everybody, and you need to hear that because it's good. The time will come, where it's really hard, and I try to tell everybody that. Yeah.
I mean, I think by definition, like a startup is something that could build something so awesome and disruptive that it could change the status quo. But whenever we're changing the status quo, it's going to be a difficult road, right? Because the way I see a status quo is a group of people who have groupthink on a habit, right? And we all know how difficult it is to change a habit, right? And and then before the habit change, there's a catalyst, and it's painful. It's painful, right? But then once you get over the hump, then all of a sudden, like, everyone converts, right? And then so a lot of things in life is about when you get against, when you feel that pressure, right? Are you the quitter, or are you going to keep going on? And when you're in pain and when you're in darkness, the only thing you have to go by is sort of like faith. It's almost like blind faith, like, okay, I gotta believe in myself and keep pushing forward. So that's really good, wise words from John. Thanks for sharing that. Hopefully because you said that, John, we have a few more founders that when the going gets tough, they just keep going and push through.
Yes, that's the test. The universe is testing you, so just keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a firm believer of that. Thank you, John. Thanks so much. And we are looking forward to the session next week. Okay.
Yeah,
And
me too.
I want to reach out and get those 3 ideas from you, because those are just gold. Thanks for
Awesome.
coming.
All right, thank you. All right,
Thank
bye.
you.
Bye, everybody.